This is the talk of the town on Wall Street, certainly. Michael Lewis's new book, Flash Boys, which addresses the darker side of high-frequency trading. This high-speed, massive trading system that's really only for people who pay up big money for it. Lewis stopped by Fox Business to speak with Don Imus and Maria Bartiromo about why he believes that in a mere millisecond, high-frequency traders have an unfair advantage in the markets. Listen.
I do think it's rigged.
The whole market's rigged.
Yeah, it's rigged in a very subtle way. What it feels like is insider trading because, except instead of hearing that company X is going to acquire company Y, you actually get advance word of the price movements in the stock and can react to them before everybody else.
But by a millisecond. Right?
By a millisecond, but that's enough.
And by the way, more than 90% of high-frequency trades are canceled before they get through. It's all very strange. But ever the contrarian, Charlie Gasparino has a different perspective on HFT. He's joining me now.
Well, we should also say we have some breaking news now on the Virtu IPO. As you know, Virtu is a high-frequency trading firm. It was going to do an IPO. It was actually going to start its roadshow or really start meeting with investors this week, official planning for this IPO. It's going to would initially value the company at about $2 billion. And this is a high-frequency trading firm run by Vinny Viola, former head of the NYMEX. I've known him. I think you know who he is. Here's kind of interesting thing. They've obviously, from what it's been reported, they pulled the IPO. Why did they pull? Well, people at Virtu and saying that they were caught off guard by the hoopla surrounding Michael Lewis. They're basically...
Did they not know the book was coming out?
They knew it was coming. They did not believe the insanity that, like what you just said before, us talking about it, regulators jumping in, that was going to ensue. They're out there essentially trying to pitch themselves, and they're starting to meet with investors now, kind of a pre-roadshow, by saying, hey, we're good guys. If you look at what's the guy's name? Brad Katsuyama?
Katsuyama.
He's one of Michael Lewis's heroes. Apparently, they're saying that Brad Katsuyama went out and singled him out as the good guys. We should point out, though, that this book and the hoopla, the controversy, which I think a lot of it's hot air. We'll get into that. But no matter what, this book shaved about $200 million off their potential market cap. That's what they're saying internally. When they were thinking of a $2 billion IPO net worth, or what do you call it, a market cap, they're saying now it's going to be about $200 million less. And we should point out the timing of the IPO is still to be determined. Vinny Viola
is probably so annoyed
and now he's going to start meeting with investors.
But Vinny's now saying, wait a minute, Brad Katsuyama, the white knight in Michael Lewis's book, is saying that we're okay. I was going to say, do we have a picture of Vinny Viola? What is that, sepia tone?
Oh, that's him.
It's sepia toned. It's beautiful.
That's how he looks.
All right, we have Charlie's take and his breaking news on, of course, Virtu. Now let's bring in two of the street's premier experts on high-frequency trading. They've been fighting for years to regulate the industry. Joining me, Dennis Kelleher, Better Market CEO and President, and Joe Saluzzi, Themis Trading co-head of equity trading. And in the book, Flash Boys, Michael Lewis writes about Joe, saying, quote, Arnick and Saluzzi, the principles of Themis trading, have done more than anyone to explain and publicize the predation in the stock market. All right, you got a nod here, Joe. What have you been doing and for how long?
We've been around for a long time. We're not new to the game. Sal and I started our firm in 2002, Themis Trading. Before that, we worked at Instinet. We started researching some of this high-frequency trading stuff in 2005, 2007. Our first paper was in 2008. So we're talking 5 years ago. And in 2012, we wrote a book called Broken Markets, which has a lot of these themes in there. Now what we criticize, by the way, just to be fair, it's a market structure story.
Yes.
You know, high-frequency trading.
That's not what he says in the book.
Well, Michael's book, I'll let Michael speak for that. But what the story really is, what unfortunately the rigged comment got overblown, but the story is about a market structure. Again, I'll let him speak to that. But it's about a market structure that's gotten corrupted over the years, which has allowed these loopholes and trapdoors to form. But and I agree with Charlie in his piece today about the regulators, right? The regulators missed lots of opportunities along the years. This didn't have to get to this point.
But we should unpack what you mean by market structure. In 2005, they created Rule NMS. It was implemented in 2007. That took what was essentially two markets, two centralized places to trade stock, the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ, and allowed 40 of them. Now, within the context of that 40, which, by the way, Goldman Sachs, which is against high-frequency trade, love these dark pools. That's what they're known as, dark pools. Within the context of that, you can play games. They're completely legal. And that is being lost in this complete debate.
There's the issue, the
Funny on
completely
that, by the
legal
way,
part.
The SEC proposed a proposal in 2009 to regulate some of the...
remember that?
Okay, 2009.
Where'd that go?
Well, the industry filed 160 comment letters against it, and it disappeared.
Well, I'll tell you, Duncan Niederauer, the New York Stock Exchange, went to Mary Shapiro and told her about this. And guess what she said at the time, the former SEC chief? We don't have the political will to do it.
Which brings me to Dennis Kelleher. Dennis runs a nonprofit organization that is very big on financial world and educating. Dennis, where do you stand on this? Ban it or regulate it? What do you think?
Well, it's in between, actually, Liz. And both Charlie and Sal are right. The regulators at the SEC and the CFTC have been AWOL on this issue, and it's just unacceptable. And Charlie's also right that much of this is legal, but it doesn't mean that it's right just because it's legal.
So what do you
could
do,
still
Dennis?
mean, and it does still mean that people are getting ripped off. And Liz, you said that 90% of these quotes were canceled,
Right,
which you said is all very strange. And it's part of a predatory pattern of pinging the market to find out where the big trades are coming from the mutual funds, from the institutional investors, and from pension funds. And what they're doing is moving the market and scalping and essentially front running. And that's wrong. That's the predatory part of high-frequency trading, and what the regulators now have to do is actually pass some rules, prohibit it. Much of it's prohibited now and illegal under manipulating the markets or abusive practices.
We should put this into context. I mean, okay, I'm not for front running. The top 10 things that a small investor has to worry about, this isn't in the top 10. And I don't care if it's a pension fund, a mutual fund. If you go to E-Trade, buy a stock,
disagree,
you're going to buy
Charlie.
the stock.
I don't think that's right.
Now, Charlie, you know what? Now, Charlie, you're saying like, oh, the retail investor is just too much of a little guy. They get stepped on.
No, they don't. They don't.
Yes,
They
yes,
don't. They don't
Charlie.
care about the little guy's order.
Charlie,
They only
Charlie,
care. And by the way, this was a third-rate scandal 5 years ago. Right now, it's not even on the ballpark because people have learned to adapt to it.
Hold on,
Right.
Charlie,
The
that's
bottom line,
just
the
not
retail
true.
investor, it does take advantage. The
To a
problem
certain
is,
extent.
it's invisible to them. Even the most
Yeah, but just
institutions,
because
it's
it's
invisible.
invisible doesn't mean it doesn't
Liquidity and
hurt.
volume are two different things.
No,
The
how about
they look-
saving money on the spread? The spreads have
Spread
gone.
is an irrelevant notion in an order-driven
what that
market.
means?
When a spread in a
means it's so
quote-driven
cheap.
market
Hold on.
means something. A spread in if you want to make a market, if you were Dick Grasso back on the floor of the exchange back in the day, he would say, I'm a 10-cent bid for 5,000. I'm offered at 15 cents. That's a quote. What you have now is an order-driven market that's compressed to a penny spread, which is irrelevant because there's 100 shares up.
Dennis,
You know why it's-
hold on.
you know why it's compressed?
Let me
really
let Dennis
two
get in
issues.
here. Go ahead, Dennis.
There's really two issues. One is investors, including retail investors, almost all of whom are in the market through mutual funds and 401ks. They're trading at the institutions are trading at big block trades. They're the ones getting picked off. You have two issues.
Barely.
One's investor protection. The other one is systemic stability. With the fragmented market, nobody has any visibility into these markets today in a comprehensive way.
That's a
And
totally
that
different issue.
causes
Listen, I
massive
talk to
systemic
investors every
risk.
day.
Joe is saying that is the issue.
No, that is a bad
Is
issue.
the issue.
Because that's an issue of the market could crash.
But the fragmentation created the arbitrage opportunities that are
This is,
unnecessary that
let's
exist
be honest.
today.
Let's be honest.
That's the
You
problem.
really think that small investors are getting ripped off in a way that they got ripped off of Bernie Madoff, the Wolf of? This is nothing.
Worse.
Quantify
This
it.
is
It's
nothing.
But
This is a
the
joke.
Charlie,
this
it's
is a
much
Superman
worse.
3 thing where
This
you
is
say-
not-
This is Chinese water drip
You know what
torture.
this
It is
You know what it
something.
This is a spec. This is a spec. And
Yeah, but
anybody
over
that
time,
Charlie,
a spec makes
over
a
time,
whole.
Dennis,
over time, by the way,
Why do
over
you-
time,
wait a minute,
the
why do you-
efficiencies and liquidity of the market makes the spec go
Why
up.
do you
Dennis, go ahead.
I mean, why 90% of these orders are canceled within a millisecond
Yeah, what
because
is
they're
that,
pinging the
Joe?
market.
Cancellation
They're
what?
doing it because that's how they're ripping off the institutional
they're doing it
investors and
because
the
they know
mutual
that that's how
funds.
they get an edge.
They call that market making nowadays.
Yes.
Market making is pretty much entering an order and canceling it in a microsecond. That's
Yeah,
market
right. Look,
making.
there's no intent to trade.
But here's the thing, too. A market maker back in the day, let's again go back to the floor, was a little bit of a different beast.
Oh, yeah.
Today, they are prop traders. Most of these HFT firms have no clients. That's okay. I don't have a problem with that. But don't claim to be this holy person who's going to supply liquidity at will.
Of course not.
Okay?
But here's where I got a problem with you guys and Michael Lewis. You guys are making it sound like this is the greatest scam in the world. It is not.
It is
We
indeed.
have 10
All right.
things, big things you as an investor worry about. Don't worry
How
about
about
this
when
garbage.
the NASDAQ crashed for three?
Okay, that's a different story.
That's because of this.
Yeah,
Here's
no, that's because of the market structure.
Exactly.
Not
Plumbing.
because of high-frequency trading.
No, I'm not saying high-frequency
Well,
trading
everybody
caused
else
that.
is.
It's plumbing. It's market
Right,
structure
that's
plumbing.
called- I'm with you.
It's
It
regular
could
mess,
end
like
up,
you
and
said
this has always
before.
been my issue, a ghost in the machine. Dennis, take the last word here.
Look, I think the truth is that part of this is predatory trading through high-frequency trading that needs to be regulated, because it's either going to be regulated now or it's going to be over-regulated after the next crash. And that's the bigger problem. We ought to have sensible, data-driven.
It's because you have 4,000 markets.
Charlie, quiet down. We ought to have sensible, data-driven regulation now instead of over-regulation after the next crash.
That's what we need.
Well, some regulation, Joe, as we finish up would be good.
Absolutely targeted, surgical regulation. You don't need a holistic, huge 5-year review. 2 things you do real quick: get rid of maker taker, do a pilot program to do it, and those data feeds are an issue.
How about 40 different markets? You like them?
Absolutely not.
That's the whole issue.
You don't need 13 stock exchanges, by the way, owned by 3 families.
Lively discussion. We want to thank Dennis Kelleher, Better Market CEO and President, Joe Saluzzi, Themis Trading co-head of equity trading, and of course Charlie Gasparino, who will reach through the camera and shake Dennis's hand as well, because he just shook Joe's.
Thanks, bye, Charlie.
We're going to bring this all together again because you know regulation is coming, and you know, as Charlie's reported, Preet Bharara may be getting involved at some point.
He is involved.
He is involved. All right, we have 15 minutes before the closing bell rings.